This is Drew here. I want to welcome you all to a brand new episode of Phoenix Down. This is Phoenix Down 120, and we are starting our new series. We're going to be playing Yakuza Like a Dragon, also known as Yakuza 8, I guess. Today I have with me Matt.
Hello, friends. I'm back on the Yakuza.
Yeah, back on the Yakuza. This will be the last time we're on Yakuza for a while.
Our one revisit of the year to the Yakuza series?
I guess so, yeah. This is our first Quad S game. We've been playing Yakuza for 2 years now.
And this one's now a revisit.
Yep. And we're revisiting for the last time, for a while at least. Originally came out in 2019 on Xbox. I think it was on Xbox originally first. And then it came to PS4.
Yeah.
In 2020, I believe. But as far as my history goes with the game, this is the first time I've played it. In fact, I would go as far as to say when I booted this game up was the first time I actually saw gameplay footage of it. I don't think I actually watched much gameplay footage of it.
Yeah.
Before playing this game. I knew that it was a turn-based role-playing game, which is a big departure from the original Yakuza games. And I knew that this was supposed to be a new story. So, basically, I know the director said that this was supposed to be a good jumping-on point because it can be a rather big commitment to get into Yakuza. And they said that this would be a good jumping-on point for anybody who wanted to enjoy the series. And I know they stated that this, going forward, the Yakuza series will be like this, turn-based role-playing games.
Yeah, which is funny because if you say that statement, it makes me think, oh, this series is changing. But the fact that it's also with a new protagonist, they've also got a side series in Judgment. Like, if a series changed, I would think that's it. But here, the series could change, and then they could come out with an old-style game next year, and I wouldn't be at all surprised.
Yeah.
Given that there's a lot of games and side games and offshoots and whatnot.
Yeah, it's in fact, I would say everything in this game is reversed. Because, I'm talking down to small details. The first detail being, it's a turn-based role-playing game when the original series was a beat-em-up. The main character of this game is a goofy guy put in serious situations, while the original series was a serious guy put in goofy situations. And I'll go as even far as to say the color scheme, because Kiryu, the main character of the original series, wore a white suit with a purple shirt. Ichiban wears a purple suit with a white shirt. And I'm like, everything is kind of reversed.
Yeah.
And I'm totally down for it. So, as I guess, as far as your history goes, Matt, it's about the same.
Yeah, I certainly don't have much history with this. I remember hearing about it and hearing that it was good and different.
Yeah.
But, I was nowhere near ready to play it, and, given the series that we've been playing, I had no desire to spoil myself on what was coming in the future.
Sure.
And I definitely hadn't seen any of it because while the game is quite different from the rest of the series, I was also surprised how similar it was in many respects.
Yeah.
Especially in the first couple hours when you're in Kamurocho.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, this game really, for this wildly different game, it's the same setting, the same type of, of scenarios, the same type of crap that he's getting into, the same, kind of cutscene heavy, interspersed with some gameplay, funny side missions, offbeat humor. I'm like, it feels more similar than it might actually be to play.
Sure.
And then I guess for me, the one of the big differences here is that I've played all the other games kind of bouncing back and forth between the Xbox and the PlayStation. I'm actually playing this one on the PC.
Through Game Pass.
Fully downloaded to my laptop, which is not a gaming laptop, so I was surprised that it could handle it. Although I think there are some quirks with that statement that it can handle it.
Okay.
I sent you that video. To me, everything in this game looks like it's happening underwater. The running in this game is very slow, and I think it's the fact that I'm playing it on a PC that can just barely run the game.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily feel stuttery at all. It just feels like everything's happening very slowly.
How does the look of the game, like, are the graphics okay for it?
Yeah, it's sharp. I mean, I could probably, it being a PC game, turn down some of the settings.
Right.
And if it becomes any kind of a gameplay problem, I will definitely do that. So far, it's just kind of odd because it doesn't look stuttery, like it's having trouble running it. It looks like it's perfectly well running it very slowly.
Right.
Which is, interesting. And then I sent you the other picture of the quirk of playing it on the PC where I load into the game and then it says, what do you want to play? Here's a bunch of gobbledygook file names. Pick your favorite one.
Yeah.
So, it's a little quirky playing it on the PC, but I'm just blown away that a laptop can run it. I'm not even sure probably my desktop could run it, but it's also just about at the end of life, so.
Yeah, mine's getting there as well. So two things. One, I screwed up. I said Yakuza 8. This is technically the 8th game in the Yakuza series, but it's actually Yakuza 7.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I'm like, he must have meant 8th game.
Yeah, it's the 8th game, and that's mainline games. If you don't include Dead Souls, which nobody wants to play Dead Souls. So, but before we get into Like a Dragon, excuse me, before we get into Like a Dragon, we actually have an email regarding Yakuza 6. It comes in from Dustin. He never got in his final thoughts on Yakuza 6, so he wants to bring them up here. Says, hey guys, so I never did get my final email in during Yakuza 6, so I have some things to say about it. Obviously, spoilers following. A goddamn battleship. That was the big secret. What a damn joke. Did they not learn anything in World War II? Aircraft carriers are kings of naval battles, and they doubled down on battleship? What are you going to do with that little toy boat of yours when it's being pelted by airplanes from all sides? That's 1940s tactics, never mind about how obsolete it would be in today's world. You killed all your colleagues and adopted their sons just to keep your boat hidden. Man, that's messed up.
That's also the long con.
Yeah. I didn't like the ending either. What a giant middle finger to all us Majima fans. You end the big saga about Kiryu where Majima is right there basically as his anti-hero sidekick, and the only send-off you gave him was 2 sentences at the end? Piss off. After playing all of this, I can firmly say the Yakuza series is overrated. Listen to him. Play 0. If you like it, try 1 and 2. But honestly, quit while you're ahead, since 3 through 5 are a snore fest, and 6, in my opinion, was a letdown. My final ranking would be from worst to best: 5, 4, 6, 3, 1, 2, 0. I am, however, looking forward to playing 7, and I'm in too deep now, and I'll probably play 8, and the one in between with Kiryu that was announced, and honestly, Ishin looks fun too. Now let's have some fun. How much do you remember of the series? 7 questions, 1 from each game. Oh, here we go. So, Matt,
Jesus.
This is going to be directed at you because I have
guaranteed 0 for 7.
Which district is Majima trapped in at the start of Yakuza 0? Nagashugai, Kamurocho, or Sotenbori?
Sotenbori?
Correct. Who is Haruka's mother? Rina Rukawa, Yumi Sawamura, or Yui Hatano?
Yumi Sawamura.
Correct. Who is Kiryu's love interest in Kiwami 2? Karu Sayamaya, Kyoka Atobe, Suyan Jung?
The first one?
Yes, Sayama.
Yep.
Which of the following characters is not a kid in the orphanage? Saki, Eri, Mitsuo, or Koji?
Eri?
No, Eri is a character. A kid. Saki.
Balls. Saki. I was like, well, definitely not Mitsuo. Definitely not that guy.
Who is Shun Akiyama's assistant? Mei Hua, Nier, or Hana?
The first one?
No, it's Hana.
Shit.
Or Hana.
Hana-chan.
Yep. Who is not one of Sajima's cellmates? Oh my god. Shigeki Baba, Hiroshi Kugihara, or Heihashiro Oshima?
Oshima.
Nope. It's Hiroshi Kugihara.
Oh, was he the bad guy?
I can't remember.
Or is it a made-up name?
Maybe I made up name. I don't know. Who is not one of Toru Hirosei's adoptive sons? Naoto Tagashira, Yuta Usami, Takai Matsunuga, or Kazukai Ino?
Kazukai Ino.
Correct. Okay, bonus questions, no multiple choice. Can you guys name every final boss of each game? For the multi-fights in 4 and 5, who is that last one you fight? I'm not scrolling down. He has the answers. Yakuza 0, God. I have no idea. Yakuza 1, I do know who the final boss is. You know him too. Come on, who's the final boss of Yakuza 1?
Uh-huh.
You say uh-huh?
I don't know.
Nishiki.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Yeah, his best friend.
Yeah. I miss Nishiki.
Yakuza 2 was Goda. Ryuji Goda.
Oh, yeah.
The blonde-haired guy.
Was he Korean? Was he Japanese?
No, he was Japanese. Can't remember. And I don't know any of the other ones. 4 or 5, 6. No. So here we go. 0 was Keiji Shibusawa. 1 was Akira Nishikiyama. 2 was Ryuji Goda. 3 was Yoshitaka Mine. 4 was Shishiro Munataka. I don't even remember that name.
Yeah.
5 was Matsuo Aizawa. And 6 was Suno Iwami. Honestly, having them all listed out like this, I can only picture 3 or 4 of them. Haha. Yeah. I remember Mine, Goda, and Nishiki. That's it.
Yep.
And that's the email for Yakuza 6. He also has an email for Yakuza Like a Dragon, which we will get to later on. So yeah, Like a Dragon. First cutscene we get takes place, I guess, back in the 60s?
71?
71, okay, you know more than I do. And we see a young child acting, doing a play who he's very abused.
Yeah, definitely a domineering mother.
His mother, and I don't think that was his father. I think it was somebody else.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. I thought it was his father, and then I was like, that is a very weird dynamic if the wife has a new husband and like the father and the son work for her. But it must not have been the father, right?
I don't think it was. I think it was kind of like a
just
father
a friendly
figure.
Yeah.
And after the play, the father figure takes him out to dinner. They get Peking duck. Said it was the food of royalty, Chinese royalty. So
I will tell you, it's like top 3 meals I've ever had in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
I have never had duck before.
Oh, I've had duck a few times, but the first time I had Peking duck was life-changing.
Is it oily? I've always heard duck is very oily.
No, duck can be. Peking duck very specifically isn't. So
it's dried.
Well, yeah, it's dry, but the way I had it, I don't know if every place serves it like this, but we were in Chinatown in Chicago, and I went, my parents came out to visit, and it was this big thing. We're like, we're going to try it, and none of us have ever had it, other than having heard the name before. We sit down, and they wheel 2 ducks out to the table, and they carve the ducks there, and then I think they left. And then they came back with duck soup. And then they had duck fried rice. And then they had like the real duck. So they make these little buns. So you would get like the way they carved the duck was to give you as much skin as possible in most of it.
Okay.
And so what you get is very, very crispy skin. So you get very crispy skin, a little bit of fatty meat, and then you put it in this little bun that's got like cucumbers and carrots and like a dark sauce on it. And so it is just, the crispiness of the skin and the boldness of that sauce. And then you get the crunch of the vegetables and then the pillowiness of the bun. And it's just like, they're basically little duck sliders, but they're phenomenal. And then the fact that you get like 3 different courses of duck, it was just really, really good.
Okay.
Shockingly good.
I'll have to keep that in mind. I've never had Peking duck before, so. But the man takes the kid out for dinner. Have Peking duck. He runs to the bathroom. Has to use the bathroom, and he runs into like a waiter or a server, who is acting funny, kind of funny. He doesn't think anything of it. The kid doesn't. But we have the cutscene where the waiter lifts open the... What are they? It's like a serving plate, but they have like a cover over it. I never know what those are called.
Yeah, I know. I always think of them as room service trays, but
right. That's what I think of.
I've never actually been at a table where someone's brought me food and then lifted off a cover dramatically like that.
Yeah. Well, he lifts off the cover and pulls out a gun.
Well, not much more dramatic than that.
It's true. And shoots him in the head. Shoots the man in the head. Runs off.
That marks how many people have been shot in the head so far in this game?
Oh, man. I couldn't even tell you. That's the only way you can actually truly die in Yakuza.
Yeah, I think so. Like zombies.
Yeah. But yeah, shoots him in the head, runs off. The kid comes back out of the bathroom and finds him there dead. And it quickly cuts, kind of like a fade, shows the kid's face, and it shows him now as an old man. And he is now the patriarch of a Yakuza family. So it's the oh god, how do you pronounce it? I never know how to pronounce these names. Arakawa family.
Yeah.
And he's now running a sea level.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's low level, but not as low as in the last game.
Yeah. He's at least a step above a street gang.
Yeah.
He has an office, but he's running a family now, and we're cutting to the year 2000. In fact, it's New Year's Eve of 2000. And we meet our protagonist, which is Ichiban. And the thing is in this game, are you playing with subtitles or are you playing with the voice acting?
Well, I always have subtitles.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I normally always have subtitles, and I started this game out with subtitles just because, in my mind, that's the way you play Yakuza, to get it, to make it feel more authentically Japanese. I want the Japanese language. But on your recommendation, I did switch. I think halfway through Chapter 2, I switched over to English language.
Gotcha. So in the English, I don't know if they do it in the Japanese dub. They call him Ichiban, but they call everybody else by their last name.
Oh, interesting.
So in the English dub, he's known as Ichiban, but everybody else, they still say their last name. Like all your party members, stuff like that. And I'm curious if they still call him Ichiban in the Japanese dub.
I thought they did.
So, Kasuga, Ichiban Kasuga. I'm going to call him Ichiban because that's what they call him. They call him either Ichi or Ichiban. So
yeah, which is funny because I was on a call the other day and someone was, counting, and they were like Ichi 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 ni, and I'm like, oh yeah. So when in the game when they say Ichi means one, I'm like, oh yeah, I just heard that the other day.
All right. So Ichiban means number one.
That's the extent of the Japanese that I know.
There you go. Konnichiwa.
Yeah.
Arigato.
Fair. Okay, well, just tripled.
Mr. Roboto. But yeah. So Ichi is a kind of like a enforcer of this family. And we kind of get a little bit of a history lesson real early on. In fact, Chapter 1 is a lot of walking around and not really doing much, just getting a feel for this universe, basically.
Yeah, I was going to say Chapter 1 was a little bit of walking around and a whole lot of watching cutscenes.
Yes.
I don't feel like I've ever seen such a high density of cutscenes as the beginning of this game.
I don't know, man. Yakuza 0 had a good amount of cutscenes.
Yeah. Maybe I spent a lot of this game being like, all right, 5 more minutes, I'm going to save it, and I'm going to be done. And then I'm like, 40 minutes later, I'm like, all right, well, I don't know what's going on. I can't find a place to save.
Right. So, but yeah, Ichi is, once again, kind of the gangster with a heart of gold. Kiryu is always more stoic, very quiet, but would always try and fight for the right stuff. Ichiban wears all of that on his sleeve.
Yeah.
So one of the big quirks about Ichiban, and what turns into a game mechanic, is Ichiban grew up in a soap land, which is basically a whorehouse. I mean, he doesn't know who his father is. His mother was a prostitute, and he grew up on the streets, essentially, and he started off as kind of like a thug, a punk kid, and wronged the wrong guys. He messed with some Yakuzas, and they were beating him to a pulp. And he's like, I'm part of a Yakuza family too. And they're like, who are you with? And he's like, I'm with Arakawa. And at that time, back in the 90s, Arakawa was a big name. He was known as the Assassin. This guy took no prisoners, kind of thing. All right. So I got interrupted by a phone call, but we're back. Yeah, we were talking about Ichi's past. He was getting beat up by a bunch of Yakuza because he had screwed him over or something, or fought one of them. And he yells out that he actually works for Arcara. Arcara in those days was known as the assassin. Big deal. People were afraid of him. And so they call up Arcara and say, hey, you going to vouch for this kid? And Arcara's like, yeah, he's one of mine. And leaves it at that. Walks away. And they let him go. And Ichi is ever so grateful that he stands out of Arcara's office all day, every day, trying to get him to allow him to join his Yakuza family. I think he said he was 14 at the time, 14 or 15 at the time when he was doing this. And eventually, he finally gives in, and it's because of Arcara's son, who is ill. Do we know what happened to him? I can't remember.
Yeah, they tell us what happened. Was it that when he was born, he didn't breathe for a little bit? And
it
caused some damage.
That's right. I forgot about it. Man, I've done that like 2 weeks ago. It was crazy. I felt like I started this game 2 weeks ago. That's right. We get that long cutscene of when he was younger. He had fallen in love with a woman and fathered a child with her, but it was outside of the family, and the family got mad about it and was going to kill the mother and the baby, and he was able to get them to go to a like a train station to get out of town. But they caught up to her, and she put the baby in a storage locker.
Yeah, this was an intense cutscene.
Yes, it was. I totally forgot about this. How did I forget about this? And Arcara shows up and bashes the door with his fist until they're completely like bloodied, and is able to rescue the child. But unfortunately, the child had been deprived of oxygen for so long that it kind of it damaged his body, so he's in a wheelchair. And so when I keep accidentally saying Kiryu, but when Ichi is younger, he's about the same age as the kid, I think.
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
And Arakawa tells him to kind of take care of him, take him under his wing. Kid doesn't get out much. He's in a wheelchair. Show him what it's like to be, out in the world, kind of thing. And so that's what he's been doing when he joined up with the family. Is that every week I think he goes out with the kid. He's not a kid now; he's in his 20s now, but.
It's a little hard for me to tell ages in this game.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Ichi, throughout this whole game, looks about 25 to 28 to me. And then later on in this section, he's 42.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
But he doesn't look 42?
Yeah, doesn't look like he's aged really in 20 years.
Right. But yeah, so actually his 24th birthday. That's right. So he's 24 at the beginning part of this chapter. And he's now like a low-level member of the family. And I get back to where we talk about he's kind of like the gangster with the heart of gold. He grew up playing Dragon Quest. He says it by name, and I'm curious, how did they get away with that?
Yeah.
Dragon Quest is a Square Enix title, or it was an Enix title back in the day. I would assume they had to strike a deal to even mention the name, correct?
Yeah, I would think so. A little wink and a nod.
Yeah. So he grew up being like big into the RPG series Dragon Quest. And ever since he was a kid, he always wanted to be a hero. Well, in modern day Japan, you can't really be a hero anymore. And a lot of people make fun of him because of it.
Which is part of the reason he still feels like a really big kid to me.
Yeah.
Because, I think it's kind of interesting that Kiryu, he's stoic, but he's coming at this place of almost like, I know my abilities, I have the utmost confidence, nobody really scares me.
Right.
Whereas I feel like Ichiban is more like a kid who's like poking the bee's nest most of the time and doesn't really understand what he's doing necessarily. And they both end up doing kind of the right thing, and they'll stick up for, someone who's being mistreated. But Kiryu comes from that sense of power, and Ichiban just comes from, this is the thing I'm going to do, and he's loud and he's brash, and it's funny coming from two different angles and ending up almost at the same place. Right.
It's like Ichiban goes head first into things, and Kiryu did too, but they did it for the different reasons.
Yeah.
But I feel like Ichiban does have that sense of this is the right thing to do.
Yeah. It would feel a lot more just kind of looking into what the future holds for him, because I don't know. But if he were to end up running something or being in a real position of power, that feels like it would be, he would have to go through some character evolution to get there. Whereas Kiryu in some ways always inspired that respect because of his physical power.
Right.
Whereas Ichi nobody really respects Ichi.
Yeah. They just think he's an idiot.
Yeah. A goofball.
Yeah. And so that plays into the gameplay mechanics of this game. Why is it a turn-based RPG? And they even mention it in one of the first fight you get into. One of his friends, another member of the family, he's like, why do you let them beat on you? And he's like, well, they have to take their turn too.
Yeah, it's only fair.
It's only fair. It doesn't feel right if I just pound on them. Because I grew up playing these turn-based role-playing games.
And that's how you fight.
That's how you fight. And it's almost like all the battles take place in his mind. Because later on in the game, the enemies transform into monsters. Have you not run into that yet?
I have not run into that yet.
Yeah, wait till Chapter 4. They go full on, this is a role-playing game to the point where, and this, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a spoiler, you run into a guy who gives you a Pokedex.
And they talk about fighting slimes and stuff.
Yeah. Literally there's a professor who is studying the violent enemies outside, and you get a Pokedex and you fill it up every time you fight a different type of enemy. So this, all the battles take place in Ichi's mind. So instead of a dude, in a trench coat, it's now a dude who is carrying a sword and a shield, but he's using a trash can as a shield. It's or a trash can lid as a shield.
Makes me think of South Park when they're imagining themselves as warriors and the art style changes.
Yeah, that's basically it. So yeah, and it plays into the gameplay mechanics there.
It's kind of endearing, right? It's kind of fitting with the humor style that Yakuza has, right? Where I feel like in most Yakuza games, a lot of the side quest mini games are like normal things turned into a game, and this is like his normal life, and he's turning it into a game.
Right.
So I mean, I kind of feel that coupled with him just being a bit goofy like this, it doesn't feel anywhere near as out of place as I thought it would.
Yeah. No, this is if you look at the goofy parts of the original Yakuza games, this basically is turned up to 10. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Granted, a lot of the situations they get into are very serious situations. So, but yeah, so we get, there's a couple of things that happen here. So, Ichiban, you start seeing his character because they go after this guy who's been selling, what we think is bootleg pornos to kids. And kind of find out it's animal documentaries. And so he gets the money back from the guy, and he's like, okay, well, we got our collections done. We can take them back to the boss. He's like, nope, give this money back to the kids. They got scammed. We need to give the money back. And he was like, yep, the boss is going to be mad, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So he's doing all these things of making sure we're doing the right thing. And it happens multiple times. You go after another collection. It's a guy who is obviously needs the money, so he just takes his wallet because the boss told him just to get the wallet.
Gives him the money back.
Yeah, and gives him the money back. And so it's you can tell that he's trying to be the hero that he wanted to be.
Yeah, and he's somehow like this whole part of the story comes full circle because when he gets back to the boss, he does have money that he's earned. And, I get the sense from that he's always found a way to skate by, and he's always been kind of resourceful and scrappy in that sense.
Yeah.
Growing up, I guess, outside of, a standard family lifestyle, maybe he's always had to be doing this kind of stuff. Taking from one person, giving to the next, bartering for this and stealing that, and doing whatever he needs to do to get whatever the minimum is he needed for any given situation.
Yeah. So, we have to take, what is Arakawa's son's name?
Masato.
Young Master. Masato?
Yeah.
Okay. We have to take him out. It's our, weekly thing. We got to take the young master out.
Not like take him out, like.
Yeah, take him out on the town, basically. He is trying to impress this girl at a hostess club.
The ever-present hostess club.
That's right. And he is trying to win this girl over. It happens to be her birthday, and you have to do this whole thing about getting gifts and stuff. And a lot of this stuff, it feels almost like a retelling of the first Yakuza game.
Yeah.
Right?
And this is the point where I'm like, wow, we're even in a hostess club? Like, this game really isn't that different from the other games.
Right. It feels like it's trying to basically put him in the shoes of Kiryu in Yakuza 1.
Yeah.
Like, to even going to prison for somebody else.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder if that was an intentional alignment. It also makes me think of like the U.S. office and the U.K. office. They start very similar and then they diverge.
Right. We get this really strange cutscene where was it Masato? Masato, that's right. He uses what looks like some kind of weird experimental drug.
Yeah.
That allows him to walk. And he's using it to basically impress the girl. I guess he always uses it, or no? She knew he was in a wheelchair.
Yeah, because she's like, "Oh, you've healed."
Yeah.
I think he wanted that to be part of the birthday surprise.
I guess. But
and I don't really know what is their relationship like? Is he just pining after her, or do they have a relationship? Because it doesn't seem like she's all that in love with him.
Well, you definitely get that later on. Ichi goes to the bathroom and finds her and the other guy that we had to pull her off of, who was also a cop, talking, basically saying that, she's just doing it for the money. She doesn't really care about him. He got her this nice, watch?
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm going to sell it the next day. But then also, afterwards, we see that he also heard it too, so now he's kind of heartbroken about it. And that's just like a small cut scene. Like it happens a lot, but I mean, it
sets up a good dynamic too, because he's wrestling with some things internally now. Doesn't know if he should tell the young master or not.
But the young master heard it. He was in the bathroom too.
Was he? I remember that cutscene. I wasn't, because wouldn't they have had to walk past him to get out? I wasn't sure.
That's what I was assuming too.
I thought he came in after, but they show him just standing there. So yeah, I remember that moment. I'm like, wait, did he hear that, or did Ichiban just wait like an extra minute, and then Masato came in, and then they saw each other? I wasn't totally sure what was implied with that little meeting that they had.
I'm assuming he heard, but I'm not entirely sure, because he definitely seemed very sad, and he gave Ichiban a bunch of money and was like, here, just do whatever you want to with it. And that's the money that he then used. So, to pay the boss. And I have to now talk about Joe. Joe is the captain of the family.
Yeah,
I think is that how it is, second in command kind of thing.
Yep.
The game does a really good job of making you hate this man. Because he cannot stand Ichi, and Ichi is trying to be very respectful, but also trying to weasel his way. He said, "You got the collections." And he's like, "Here's his wallet." And he's like, "The wallet's empty." He's like, "Well, I got money." And then showed him the money, and he's like, "Wait a minute. This comes from the young master. You stole money from the young master?" He's like, "No, I didn't steal the money. He gave it to me." And he's like, "You still didn't do the collection, though. Yeah. What good is a Yakuza who's not doing the collection?" And he's getting ready to cut off his pinky. Like, we're going straight to, like, treason here.
Yeah, even though he fulfilled the basic duty.
Yeah. And then, before he gets ready to do it, Arakawa shows up. And Arakawa is like, "Ichi, walk with me, please." And that's when we get a lot of those cutscenes basically talking about Arakawa's history, Ichiban's history, that kind of thing. So I've covered all that. So they go to get Peking Duck. Unfortunately, the place is closed. It's New Year's Eve. People's probably out partying right now. So they watch the countdown, get into a fight, but of course we get into fights here. But Ichi goes and has himself a six-pack while he watches the fireworks and passes out on the bench, park bench out there. He wakes up the next.
I like how the cops give him a hassle when he wakes up.
Yeah, and he's like, "Well, give me your identification." He's like, "My wallet's gone." He's like, "See, this is why you don't sleep outside, idiot." But he gets a phone call, and it's from Arakawa. He's like, "You need to meet me at the office right away." And so he's like, "Okay, what's going on?" He's like, "Just come on." Cops everywhere. And he's like, "Something's going on." So we get there. Arakawa's there, sitting there, very distraught. And he tells Ichi, Joe, which I should say Joe's last name is Joe Sawashiro, I think.
Yep, that's right.
But they all just call him Joe. He's like, Joe killed a man last night. He shot and killed another Yakuza family member, or not their family, but it was from a rival family. I can't remember the name of the family though. I don't know if it is even brought up again. I'm sure it'll come back 4 chapters later from now.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll. I mean, there's no way this gets buried for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I'm seeing here the Sakai family. Sakai.
Is it Sakaki?
Sakaki family. That's it. Sakaki family. And he basically tells him, "I hate to ask you this. I need you to take the fall for this." Okay. Because Joe's a higher ranking member, it'll cause a war. But with a low ranking member, they're not going to think twice of, but this, low ranking member went rogue, killed a guy, whatever.
Then they banished him. Then he was going to go to the police, so that when he went to the police, he'd be doing it as a civilian, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
He was banned. He's like, and we have to banish you from the family. So Ichi, it originally it's like Ichi's almost stunned, and he's like, "Thank you so much. I've been waiting to repay you for saving my life all those years ago. I'm going to do it." And Arakawa was kind of taken back. He's like, "This is a big thing. You're going to go away from murder." And as we know, apparently in Japan, you can kill a guy and get out in 16 years. Not in the United States, but yeah. Ichi's all about it. And he goes...
Yeah, he's pretty happy to do so.
Oh, yeah.
As he's like, finally, I have a way to pay you back.
Exactly. And so he goes and has his little last meal, has a bunch of beef bowls.
5 beef bowls.
Yep. And then walks into the police station and turns himself in. And we cut to, I think, a couple years later. He's in prison.
Yeah, it's pretty early in his stay still, I think.
That's what I'm thinking too. He gets into a fight with a guy. They're I think, were they bullying another person?
Yeah.
I think. And he beats the crap out of him. And
because they start bad-mouthing Arakawa, right?
I think so. I think that's what happened.
I think he basically had been taking it for a year, never got into a fight, and then that one fight they start bad-mouthing Arakawa, and he beats him senseless, knocks their teeth out.
Yeah, just like Sajima did.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you can tell that the other prisoners after this are completely terrified of him. And I was thinking, he's not the biggest badass, right? Is it because he's crazy? He thinks the world's a video game. I like for a minute there I couldn't, but apparently he is like he's a badass, just like Kiryu, and people are genuinely afraid of him. But unfortunately, he was originally sentenced to 15 years, but they extended his sentence for another 3 years. But he gets out in 16 years on good behavior.
Does he?
I think so. He was in prison for 16 years.
Oh, I thought it was the full 18.
Was it? Yeah, it was. It was full 18. It was full 18 years.
I thought so because I thought at one point, I thought they mentioned that he would have been out 3 years ago. On the 15th, and then he's there for the extra 3, and he has the letter from his boss.
Yeah, he gets a letter from his boss.
I think he got that at year 16.
Yeah, that's what it was. And then 2 years later, he gets out. He gets out expecting, our car is going to be there waiting on him. And you get kind of like a funny cutscene where he's there, like bowing, and he looks around, and there's nobody around except this old woman walking by. She waves at him.
Yeah, she's hunched over a cane.
Yeah,
it's dead quiet out there.
And he's like, "What? Where is everybody?" And this guy approaches him. And he's like, "Yeah, nobody's waiting on you, man." And he's like, "Well, who the hell are you?" And we get to meet our first party member, reluctantly get our first party member, which is Adachi. And Adachi starts telling him all these facts about himself, about Ichi. And he's like, "Okay, so you didn't your research on me? Why?" He's like, I need your help with something." He's like, "Well, I'm not going to help you. I'm going to go back to my family." He's like, "Yeah, that's probably not going to work for you." "Okay, why?" He's like, "Kamurocho's very different now." And so he starts telling him, "Yeah, your boss isn't your boss anymore. The Tojo clan doesn't really exist anymore." He's like, "What are you talking about?" "Apparently, sometime while you were in prison, the Tojo clan got defeated and was sold out to the Omni Alliance." And he's like, "Nah, that's bull. You're lying to me. I'm not believing a word you're saying." And I think he gets him in his car. So Adachi gets him in this car, and they're driving to another town. And he's like, "Nope, get me out of here." He's mad at him. He gets out of the car, and he's like, "I'm walking then." So he walks to Kamurocho. And when he gets there, he's flabbergasted. Everything's different. Like, everybody's walking around with cell phones, and he's like, he's just really confused. Much like how Kiryu was. And so, first thing he does is go to where the old Adachi, or not Adachi, Arakawa headquarters was, the office. Nope. Hasn't been a Yakuza office in 15 years.
I like him running into, I don't know if it was a janitor or a security guard, and he's telling him about all the other businesses that have been there.
Yeah, that's the guy telling him all this stuff. But he's like, "All right, well," and he starts running into other people too. So he runs into like the old lady who was like she was like a barfly, and she's now a health nut. She drinks fruit juices and stuff like that now, and doesn't run a bar. She runs like a health club kind of thing. And he's like, "Wow, things have changed." And he eventually goes to the gravesite. He's visiting the grave of the quote, the man he killed. And he's cleaning off the grave. And Adachi shows back up. And he's like, "Yeah, I kind of figured I'd find you here." And Adachi's still asking him, he's like, "Did you really kill that guy?" He's like, "Yeah, I did." He's like, "You were obviously lying.
Yeah.
And you're not telling me the truth." He's like, "I know that you didn't kill him. I'm trying to find something out, and I need your help with it." And he's like, "I don't want to have anything to do with it. This is like bizarro world." Like he's completely in denial. Just so happens, while he is in the cemetery, Arakawa shows up along with a bunch of his men, and they're coming and they're walking to visit a grave. And Ichi's like, holy crap, that's him. I gotta go talk to him. And Adachi's trying to warn him, dude, don't go over there. The guy will not know who you are. And they got stopped by some of his men. And he's like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm with you guys. Arakawa is my patriarch. And they're like, what family are you with? I was like, I was with his family. And he's like, so you're part of the Omni Alliance? He's like, hell no, I'm not part of the Omni Alliance. I'm part of the Tojo clan. And they're like, so you're one of those Tojo clan extremists that still think, they can run Kamurocho. So we get into a fight with them. Adachi's able to smooth it over. He's like, look, my friend is confused. He's drunk. He's just out of his mind. And he tries to yell out to Arakawa. Arakawa stops. He turns and looks at him. And he turns back and walks away from him. And he's like, whoa, wait a minute. He doesn't recognize me? He doesn't know who I am?
No, that must not be it. He must have just not have seen me.
Yeah. He just must have didn't. The sun was in his eyes. I don't know. And Dachi's like, dude, you were completely in denial. This guy has forgot about you. You were just a fall guy. So, defeated, he listens to Adachi.
Which is crazy. He has, literally no one.
Yeah.
And he's not been part of the world for almost 2 decades.
Yeah. And they really push that, too, especially in the next chapter. But, I mean, he literally has nothing. And, there's no one to go to, basically. And Adachi tells him, basically what he's working toward. He's trying to figure out how the Omni Alliance came into power. Because a few years ago, the mayor of Tokyo set this new initiative where he wanted to clean up the streets and curb all crime, starting with Yakuza gangs. And funny thing is that when he did that, all the Tojo just kind of disappeared. On top of that, the Omni Alliance came in, and the guy has no problem with the Omni Alliance being here. So Adachi believes that it couldn't have just been the Omni that came in. They had to have had help. They had to have got kickbacks somehow from the police force. And he wants to know how.
Yeah, again, a lot of the similar themes to the other Yakuza games.
Exactly. So this is our new Date. But he's, an ex-detective. He's now just a driving instructor.
Yeah.
Kind of disgraced from the force. And so he's like, well, the only way to get the answer is to get it from the guy. We need to talk to Arakawa. So they know that there's a meeting going on. Dachi's done his research.
He seems to know a lot.
Yeah. And he's like, well, they're having a meeting tonight at this fancy restaurant up in this big building, tower building. I could probably get you in there. So we do our first infiltration. Going through the... I had to go underground, right? We go underground for a minute and then go back up. Because the dungeon... So we have dungeons in this game.
Yeah.
And you basically go through a dungeon and then go up through the building. Make it to the rooftops, and a helicopter shows up. We're fighting Yakuza the whole way there. A police helicopter shows up, and Adachi's like, go on without me. I'll hold these guys off. They know me, kind of thing. So we go into the restaurant, the meeting, and we're stopped by none other than Joe. Joe's there, and he's like, you really don't know what you're doing. Also, why don't you just get the hell out of here? You're not part of us anymore. And of course, Ichi's like, I figured you'd have a little bit more gratitude since I just spent the last 18 years for you.
Yeah, for what
in
you've
prison.
done.
Exactly. So we have our first boss fight with Joe. So far, I haven't had an issue in this game. Chapter 4, you will definitely start running into issues.
Yeah, I haven't had an issue yet. My only question mark has been whether I kill them in one hit or if it takes two.
No. You'll be doing multiple rounds. Don't worry. And you will need to start using skills. So
yeah, I do use that power punch quite a lot.
So you will get a different job at the beginning of Chapter 4, and it's pretty great.
I feel like you end up, at least early in this game, leveling up so much that the MP is like not a question mark or a concern at all.
Sure.
Because before I can even use it up, I've leveled up in it, and all your stats refill, which is nice.
Yeah. HP, MP refills. But we'll talk a little bit more about the game mechanics after we get to this. We'll finish up Chapter 2 right here. After beating Joe, we bust into the meeting. There's a bunch of Omni Alliance guys there. Arakawa's there. And he's like, it's me. You do remember me, right? And he does. He's like, you shouldn't be here. And he pulls out a gun and shoots Ichi. And that's the end of Chapter 2. Kind of left on a cliffhanger. But we'll stop the story for a second to talk about some of the game mechanics. So, in turn-based fashion, you have enemies and your party members on the screen. And they're moving around the battlefield. You can't move them. They're moving automatically. And you can use this to your advantage. So, selecting an attack while you're next to something that can be used as a weapon, you can do more hits. So, like, let's say there's like a box on the ground. If you're standing next to the box, Ichi will kick the box and hit a guy with it and then go do his attack. So there's a lot of thought process going into the positioning of your attacks. On top of that, if you go to attack a character, an enemy, and there's another enemy in the way or close in the vicinity, they can basically take an opportunity of attack and basically stop you from attacking. And you just basically lose that turn. So positioning is key in these battles. Now the good thing is that all the characters have skills, which use MP, which actually stands for magic points in this game. They actually call it magic.
Yeah, even in the menu it calls it magic. Like you have a magic ranking.
Mm-hmm. And but when you use skills, you can't be stopped. Like you can't be blocked by another enemy standing in the way. And then there's some skills that do status effects. They do different types of element damage. They can also hit multiple targets, kind of thing. Some of them are really nice. And then you have characters that can heal people, stuff like that. So, Ichi seems like your standard all-round decent character. Doesn't have much healing. While Adachi is more of like your tank character, your bruiser.
Yeah.
Hits hard kind of thing. And we haven't got to it yet, but you will learn about it in Chapter 4. You can change your job. Everybody has a job, just like in Final Fantasy, where you can switch jobs and they get a different move set. They use a different type of weapon. They use different types of all sorts of stuff.
Is there like a dedicated healer?
You get a dedicated healer. You talking about job?
Yeah.
So from what I understand, your fourth party member that you get, I have not got them yet. You get them in Chapter 5, from what I understand. She has a job that is a dedicated healer job. And from what I've read and heard in videos, like for beginner guide, switch that character to the idol job.
Mm-hmm.
The idol job is apparently like a must-have in the party. So, and the jobs are character specific as well. So, I think right now Ichiban is a freelancer. You unlock a second job for him in Chapter 4 called Hero, and that's where he has the baseball bat.
I do like that bat.
Well, you will change out of that bat pretty quickly. The bat's cool looking, but you get other weapons that are, or you have to go buy the weapons. I highly suggest gearing up, because that really makes a difference as well.
Mm.
So yeah, other than that, you can run from a battle if you want to, and you can also guard. And there is kind of like those, like I said, the Mario and Luigi mechanics where, you press a button at the right timing, you do extra damage on your attacks, or if you hit the guard button when you're getting attacked, you can lessen the damage kind of thing. So there is some kind of like active stuff that you have to do during the battles. But
yeah,
anyway.
it doesn't seem all that complicated so far, at least. Maybe I haven't tried out too many of the special moves, but mostly I find the timing stuff, other than the button presses that are prompted on the screen, it's mostly on the defense, where I'm always just trying to time that perfect block.
Right. So, back to the story. Ichiban wakes up, I would say, what, is it 3 or 5 days later? I can't remember.
Yeah, I was going to say 3.
3 days later, and he is in
a trash can.
He's in a trash can, but he's in a different city.
Ijincho?
What city is it? Say it again.
It's Ijincho, which apparently is a neighborhood within Yokohama.
Okay.
Which I like. Actually, our company's Japan headquarters is in Shin, Yokohama.
Okay. Well, there you go.
So that's my stomping ground in Tokyo.
He wakes up in a trash heap, injured, and is set up in a homeless camp. And he meets his next party member, which is Nanaba.
Namba?
Namba? I thought it was no, there is no A in there. Nanba. Why does he think Namba is a fake name? Do we know what Namba means?
I don't know. And I couldn't tell if it was just a little bit of a joke where he's like, oh, Ichiban sounds like a fake name. And he's like, oh, Namba sounds like a fake name.
It could have been. But yeah. Namba is a homeless man who was at one time a nurse, like a registered nurse. And he found Ichi in the trash, basically left for dead. And he performed surgery on him and was able to get the bullet out.
With what was it? Was it fishing line that he sewed him up with?
Yeah, sewed him up with fishing line, and has been kind of nursing him back to health. And he was basically like, look, you're not allowed to really be here. We have like a community here of the homeless. So you kind of need to be on your way. But I'll help you out today. And so we learn how to scrounge for money. And do a few other things, how to earn money and stuff like that. And Ichiban's like, I really want to stay here. I have no other place to go. I don't even know where I'm at. Can I please stay here? He's like, well, you got to learn to earn your keep, basically. So we do a few mini games. We can do the can. What's it? I can't remember what it's called, but it's like where you collect the cans.
Can Quest. The bike.
Can Quest. Where you ride around like a little go-kart course and collect cans and avoid getting hit by other can collectors and ramming into them. And earn some money. You can also search up under vending machines for loose change and stuff like that too.
Yeah, 5 and 10 yen at a time.
Yep. And I will say, pretty much through this chapter and through the majority of chapter 4, you are broke.
Yep.
And they really pushed that. Like, Ichiban got out of prison. He has nobody to lean on and nowhere to go. And I kind of like that about this. So we got our setup, right? We got our Yakuza conspiracy theories stuff. And then all of a sudden, bam, we are living the homeless life. And we are going to try and find jobs. And we're doing these small things to just basically get back on our feet. And it's in many games that would be like a 30-minute little side quest. No, we spend 3 chapters doing it.
Yeah. I do like it. I feel like it allows him to showcase his kind of scrappiness. He'll do whatever. I thought it was a little weird in this section when he is basically like, why are all you homeless people choosing to be homeless? Why don't you just get a job? Why don't you why don't you go down to the unemployment office and get a job? And I just thought that was a little strange because I'm like, why don't, if it's not like they were just waiting for someone to come tell them to get off their asses and do something.
Right.
So,
well, I think it also leans into that Ichiban is like you said, he's kind of childish.
Yeah, kind of naive about things.
He doesn't know how the world works because, to be honest with you, he's been locked up most of his life.
Yeah.
So he get a job, guys.
Yeah, what's wrong with you? Why don't you just work?
And I like Naba a lot because he tries to put things into perspective.
Yeah.
I feel like Naba is everybody. I feel like everybody in our party so far has integrity, but I feel like Naba has the most. Mainly because I feel like he's a little bit more smarter than everybody else. Just a little bit.
Agreed, which is why, like, it's a little strange that he's just kind of resigned himself to be like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and, if I find 150 yen, that's a great day. Because he does seem like one person who could maybe just choose to do something else unless there's more keeping him there.
I feel like there's more. We just haven't learned it. You learn a little bit more about what happened with him, how he became homeless, how he lost his job as a nurse, which I guess we can just talk about it. I mean, it's not like we have to go by story bits, but he was a nurse who he started stealing pharmaceuticals, narcotics, and was selling them to people on the street to make some extra money. He got caught, lost his nursing license, and didn't have anything. Lost everything. And started living on the streets. That's all I know so far. I don't know if there's more to it. I don't know if he was ever married or if he had any children. I know he's 41. He's a year younger than Ichi. Adachi is like 59, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a little bit of a world where, like, he's seen some things in his days.
Yeah.
So far, they're a pretty likable cast.
No, they are. They really are. And I like the dynamic in Chapter 4. I'm halfway through Chapter 4, I believe, and there's some things that they're like, they will go out of their way to help somebody. And some of them more reluctantly than others. Ichi's usually trying to lead them on, like, they're like, oh man, I'm out of here. This is too much. And Ichi's like, no, we need to do this. And they're like, fine, we'll do it. Kind of thing.
Yeah, Namba especially, I feel like has become a bit. I don't want to say introverted, but he's like, I have no reason to help people.
Right. But they I'm trying to imagine the story beats. I think the Yakuza come in, right?
Yeah,
And
they try to get
demanding their
shakedowns.
Yeah, they do their monthly come and get money from the homeless. And Ichi's like, I'm not standing for this crap. So we get into a fight with them, and that's when Nama joins our party. So Nama is kind of like a mage. He has some pretty good, like, damaging abilities.
Yeah, the pigeon attack. I use that a lot.
Yeah, he has one where he blows fire in a guy's face, which can hit multiple targets if you line them up right. And he also can heal. He can heal himself, and then I think in Chapter 4 he learns how to heal other people.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I know he's got a little bit of an automatic MP regeneration.
Yeah, if he uses his standard attack, he gets automatic regeneration. I don't know if it works with every job that he can have, because you can switch jobs with him. I know with the job that he has right now, which is homeless guy, he when he hits with his standard attack, he gains magic points back. So, yeah, after we beat up those Yakuza, the rest of the homeless guys were like, dude, you can't do this. Like, they're going to come back and they're going to have more guys. Like, you're not going to be here all the time to help us. You're causing trouble for the place. And Namba is like, look, you got to understand the hierarchy here. And so he kind of points it out. He's like, there are 3 gangs that rule this part of town. You got the local Yakuza. I can't remember the names of any of these guys. The local Yakuza. You've got the
Siryu clan.
Siryu clan. Then there's the Korean mafia. Is it? It's not the Jinhua mafia, is it?
No, it's. They say it a bunch of times. It's like Geomajul. Geomajul.
And then there's another one. Is it the Chinese mafia?
Yeah, the Lu Mang.
Lu Mang. And they've basically divided themselves up and taken over different boroughs of this town.
And I like the, in my mind, obvious foreshadowing of it's like a powder keg. It's like a Cold War. One thing changes and, all hell will break loose. I'm like, gee, I wonder if all hell will break loose.
More than likely, yes.
Yeah.
So, Ichi's like, well, we got to take care of ourselves and possibly the people in this homeless camp. So, we got to go get jobs. So, Ichi and Nanba go to Hello Work, which is is it government ran? I don't know. A temp agency?
Yeah, definitely like a temp agency or a placement agency.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was government run or not, though.
I don't think it was. But they go to Hello Work and want to find employment. Unfortunately, they get shot down, saying, we don't have any work for you guys. You're not really qualified. Also, you're homeless. So if you don't have a permanent place of residence, we can't really assign you a job.
That felt a little weird to me, too, because it seemed like they were going to give him a job until he said he grew up homeless. And then they're like, oh, well, in that case, no, you can't have a job.
Right. But the janitor stops him and says, hey, I know somebody that needs some help. Why don't you go meet with them?
Wait, he was director, right?
He is the director, but they thought he was the janitor because he was sweeping up the place.
Yeah.
So they were like, why don't you go help them out, and I'll tell them you're coming. And they said, okay. So we go over to this little bar that's right across the river. And the lady running the bar is saying that she doesn't want to do this. It's actually one of her patrons that is wanting to do this. We're looking for some bodyguards. Okay, well, we can do that. I'm a badass Yakuza, and I got a nurse with me. So, what's happening is that across the river here, somebody has been tying into the electricity to the restaurants and bars here. And last night, I cut the cable. The patron did this. And this morning, we have a nice big brick thrown through our window.
Right through the window.
Yeah. And I'm afraid they're going to send somebody over here. But I'm not cutting the power back onto them. They've been leeching off our power for too long. And the woman that runs the bar, she's like, I don't agree with this at all. But Ichiban's like, nope, we're going to do this. We're going to go and we're going to make sure that nobody messes with you guys. So we hang out around the bar, and a dude comes in, and he's got a sledgehammer. And we have a boss fight with him. That's when I unlocked the combo attack.
Yeah.
Where Ichi and Namba like basically combine forces and attack a guy. I killed that dude in one hit. We beat him up and we're like, so did they pay you to do this? And this is the Korean mafia that sent this guy. They're the ones leeching off the power.
The Giamma Jewel.
Yeah. And Namba's like, dude, they're Namba don't want anything to do with this. He's like, we can't really do this. These guys are bad news. They'll kill you in a heartbeat. But Ichi doesn't care. We beat up the guy. He's like, what'd they do? They pay you to do this? And he's like, yeah, they paid me to do this. They told me they'd give me 1,000,000 yen if I just came over here and destroyed this place. He's like, do you really believe that? You really think they're going to give you 1,000,000 yen? And he's like, well, I don't know. So he gets up and he's like, just go and tell them not going to happen. So he runs across the bridge, and then we start getting shot at by bows and arrows. It's crossbows.
Yeah.
Arrows start flying. And we're hiding behind part of the bridge. And Ichi's like, you know what? We're going to make this end. And he goes out there and he just stands there.
Arms wide, like a Jesus pose.
Yep. He's T-posing out there. And he's like, it's over. Your guy failed. Leave these people alone. We'll leave you alone. How about that? And they take a shot, scrape him in the face. He doesn't even flinch. And then they let him go. They disperse into the darkness. And Namba's like, this dude's out of his mind. This guy is out of his mind. And I'm going to die tonight. And so, and then we get a cutscene with the guy that they had paid. Couldn't find out he wasn't a guy that they paid. He was actually part of the mafia. Because one of the things about this mafia is that they don't show themselves. They're basically just like any other person in the crowd. They blend in.
Yeah, they make a point of saying that. Yeah, they don't wear their loyalty as a pin on their lapels.
Exactly. And they have the guy tied up. He's beat up, and he's like, "Look, you don't need to kill me, man." And there's a guy wearing a hood, shadowy figure, and he shoots him in the head with a crossbow. He says something in Korean that's not translated, and shoots him in the head. So I'm sure that's not the last we'll see of that shadowy figure.
Yep.
Well, after that's over with, the patron of the bar says, you guys should Oh, no, she doesn't. We go back to Hello Work the next day. And now the director, who we thought was a janitor, is sitting there, and he's like, hey, I got some more work for you. I need you to go down to this restaurant, which is actually not a restaurant.
Huh. They have moldy cookies and some crackers.
That's right. And she needs some help. And when we get there, it's the patron from the bar. She's like, oh, it's you guys again. And kind of find out she's running a brothel. She's running a soap land. And Ichi's okay with it. He's like, you know what? I grew up in one. Of course, I'll help you out. What do you need us to do? She's like, I need you guys to clean up. And of course, they're cleaning up a brothel. And Namba's like, this is disgusting, dude. Look at this Kleenex. Look at these Kleenex just laying here. You know what they've been touching.
He's like, I have a thing with bodily fluids.
Yeah. He's like, weren't you a nurse? So, yeah. While we're cleaning up, though, we hear a ruckus outside. And it's a demonstration. There's a bunch of protesters outside. And we get introduced to, is it Bleach Tokyo?
Bleach Japan.
Bleach Japan.
Because their logo is a big BJ.
That's right. They come and they are demonstrating out of this place because they claim that they're a restaurant, but we all know that this is a brothel. And Bleach Japan is a non-profit organization that is trying to clean up the streets. It was part of the initiative for when the mayor took over and wanted to clean up the streets. And this guy who runs it is big buddies with the police force. And they're wanting to clean up all the gray areas and turn them white. And the police have turned a blind eye to prostitution for too long. And we are going to demonstrate this place and make you guys get shut down. So we run them off. And they come back later. The leader does. And he brings some of his... They're not Yakuza. They're more just punks.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, they're here to eat at your wonderful restaurant.
Except I could swear this guy was Yakuza, and we've already fought him like 6 times.
Here we go. Yes, I know. They reuse character models, Matt.
Except he's wearing a mustache this time.
Yeah, right? They put a mustache on him. He's got different clothes. So, we have to fight those guys. And after we kick them out, the madam, I'll call her the madam, is so happy with us that she says, well, you know what? If you guys want to be my full-time bodyguards for this place, because you know they're going to come back, I'll let you stay here. And they're like, for real, you're going to give us like an apartment? Yep, right up above the soap land. And Ichi and Namba feel like they finally made it. They've got employment. They've got a roof over their heads. They got a bed to lay on. It's maybe stained a little bit. But it's better than what they had a day ago. And they're sitting there talking about their hopes and dreams. And Namba asks him, what did you want to be when you grew up? And he's like, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a hero. And he's like, that's weird, but why don't you go for it? Why don't you be a hero? What else you got to lose?
Yeah, just because you're 42, that doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. And Ichi's like, you know what? I think you're right. I'm going to be a hero starting tomorrow. And they have a little toast, and things are looking up for the group. And that's the end of chapter 3. Did I miss anything, Matt?
No, I think that's most of it.
Cool. And there you go. I have played more. I've probably put another 4 hours into it. Now, I did a lot of sub stories. Did you do any sub stories in Chapter 3?
Only the one that I think you're kind of forced to do. The very first one.
Which one's that one?
Shit, what was
it? Technically, the can thing was a sub story.
Yeah, I think that was the only one I did.
Gotcha. Maybe the sub stories don't open up till Chapter 4. Did you do the one with unlocking the pawn shop?
Nope.
Okay. Close to the homeless shelter area, there is a big trash heap. Do that sub story because it unlocks the pawn shop and you can then offload a lot of the stuff that you've been getting.
Oh yeah, because there are quite a lot of pickups.
Yeah. And then, we'll save some of the sub stories for next time. But there's some pretty good ones in there. There's some ridiculous ones. Dude, you get summons in this game. You do. It's basically phone a friend. It's called Pound Mates.
Pound Mates.
Yeah, it's actually pretty funny how you unlock it. It's part of the story. But yeah, you basically you call up a buddy and they show up and it's like a summon and they beat up on enemies. I've unlocked like 2 of those so far. Yeah, there is a lot in this game that I haven't even seen yet.
Yeah,
like Yakuza has always been kind of like a big series that always has like a ton of stuff that you can do. I'm not talking mini games. I'm talking like full on like game things that you can do. Like there's another business management game in it. There's this whole big like Mario Kart. There's a Mario Kart game in this game. and there's like multiple tiers that you have to fight bosses and stuff.
Oh,
it's
crazy.
Nuts. This game is crazy. But anyway, yeah.
It is a long one too, right? If you do a lot of it or all of it.
Oh, dude, you could easily put 80 hours in this game. Easily. And then there's New Game Plus that you can do. There's like a battle tower that you can do. There's a battle arena, which you kind of have to do. So I'll tell you this. I have heard from multiple people there is a difficulty spike a little past halfway through this game. And right before that difficulty spike, you get access to the battle arena.
Oh, they want you to spend some time there?
They really want you to spend some time there because you will get wrecked. From what I understand, you will go into a boss fight where the bosses are level 50 and you are about level 35.
Wow.
Yeah. And in this game, the game suggests do not take on anybody that's 5 levels higher than you. And you will start running into that in Chapter 4.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've saw some people, a fair number of, not even mini bosses, just regular characters that were 1 or 2 or 3 levels ahead that didn't seem that hard.
Yeah, no. You will start running into it so it depends. It's all based on what part of the city you're in, and they have like that threat level that they have right there next to the mini map.
Yeah,
go by that. Do not go any higher than 3. You'll find out the hard way. And another little thing, I haven't ran into it yet, but I've been told it's like Persona 3 and 4. If Ichi dies in battle, it's game over.
Oh, really?
Even if you have party members still alive and you have abilities that can bring you back to life, if Ichi is knocked out, it's over.
Oh, that's good to know.
I hate that mechanic. It is old-fashioned. It makes no sense. Why have it in your game?
Yeah, especially if he's a main, front-end damage dealer. He's not going to be hanging around trying not to get hit.
Yeah. And I would say once you accumulate probably about 30 or 40,000 yen, stop by a store and gear up. And I would say don't skimp.
Buy the best.
You see some, I wouldn't say buy the best. I would say give Ichi the best stuff, and maybe somebody else like a third tier weapon. So I can't remember the name of the store, but there's a store that sells like 1 level better and 3 levels better. The 3 levels better weapons seem to have chance to to proc paralysis on enemies.
Oh yeah,
go for that. So that's a suggestion I'll give you. How are you feeling about this?
To be honest, I'm digging it quite a lot so far. There's enough mystery to keep me engaged. There's been some really good character moments. Ichi with the boss and Ichi with, most of the people in his party so far. So I am enjoying the characters. I find the battles so far aren't difficult or complex, but the fact that it's expanding and teams expanding, I'm interested to see where the battle system kind of goes. And it's still kind of fun and funny, and I don't know. I'm really enjoying it. It does feel a bit fresher, and just as something new. New character, new battle system, new environment. Now that we're finally out of Kamurocho.
Yeah, the change of pace was definitely needed for me.
Yeah.
As much as I like the Yakuza series, I was getting burned out on it.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is a great change of pace. And unlike the Yakuza series, the old series, I don't mind grinding in this game.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, we have 2 emails. The first email is the second part of Dustin's email. This one's all about Like a Dragon. He says, "Heyo, this game is great. I'm loving Ichiban. This dude is hard to hate. He's so damn positive, and the whole premise of how he loves Dragon Quest, so that's why it's turn-based, is hilarious. I'm sure everyone knows, but the 4 different menus for the battle system spell out Sega. I did not know that."
Oh, that's funny.
Wow. Okay. "I'm digging the turn-based RPG mechanics way more than I ever liked the beat-em-up style of the previous games. We're not even that far into the game, and I can already tell this is probably going to be my favorite Yakuza game. The balance between dramatic and comedic is perfect. I'm actually seeking out side quests in this game since some rewards you with summons or better gear that actually help your characters out. So far the plot is fine. It's moving a bit slow as you're getting involved in local politics of the 3 factions that control the city, and not much has been even hinted at as to who left him in a different town in a garbage heap, but all in due time. Some pro tips I have for the game so far are don't get hit by cars. It takes off 100 hit points.
Oh, wow.
So if you've been looking both ways before you cross now. When Ichiban dies, it's game over, and you respawn nearby with half your money missing. I've never understood this mechanic in any game. If I have party members alive that I control and have revive items, let me use them. I second that. You can't tell what level the enemies will be until you're fighting them, but in the lower level on the left, it lists which district you're in and has shields next to it. The number of shields correlates how strong the enemies you'll encounter in the area will be. That's all I have for you now. Obviously, upgrade your gear frequently. Right now, I'm walking around with sex toys for weapons." I guess one gripe I do have with the game is the movement. Your walk is too slow, and when you're running around and you want to stop to check an item or safe, I usually run right by it. I'm getting used to it now, but right away it was annoying.
Yep. True.
And our final email comes in from Jamie. It's titled Like a Dragon. She said, "Konnichiwa. I'll be honest. I didn't think I would like this game. I never played a Yakuza game. To be honest, I've stayed away because it seemed like too much of a commitment. But it's my goal to play more games on my PC, since I spent an arm and a leg on a graphics card that is overpowered. I have to make myself feel better about that somehow, so I figured I'd try it. And I love it. Well, love is a strong word. I'm really enjoying it, at least after the first chapter. That first chapter was brutal. Not that I don't find the story interesting, but it just seemed to tease side quests and battles, then never actually let you do it. That was probably the longest intro I've played. It was the most bizarre tutorial section, like, here's how you fight, but it's going to be a few hours, so sit back. I haven't played a game this cutscene heavy since we played the Metal Gears. But the time we entered the real dungeon, I was so excited. This is going to be a rare short email for me, since while there has been a lot of story, it all seems to be set up, which is great. Too often I play a game and get bored, but this one has my interest. Why did Sulu betray him? Is Ichiban going to become the next big patriarch? Are there any females other than prostitutes in Japan? Not that I have a problem with them. I just want a bit of variety. Even counterfeit money needs to have a backside. They know that, right? I totally forgot to talk about the counterfeit. Yeah. Wow. That's one of the things that was found on Ichi. So, in his pocket, his front pocket of his coat, they found a $10,000 yen, or 10,000 yen, bill. And all the homeless people were going nuts over it. And they're like, wait a minute. There's no back to it. This thing's counterfeit. So you need to get the hell out of here. That's what they were saying, was basically like, whoa, you're going to bring heat on us. This is highly illegal. And Ichi's like, I don't know where this came from. Who would have gave me this? And
I like Nanba's like investigation. He's like, I've deduced that it can't be Ichiban's because it doesn't have a bullet hole in it.
That's right. And it was right there where he got shot. So how did he come up with that? Nobody knows. Totally forgot about that, man. I know that's going to come back.
Yeah.
Let's see. First impressions. I do absolutely love the combat, even if it is silly to watch them stop and have a snack mid-fist fight. But when has a Japanese game ever not been silly? I love Ichiban, even though I really want to fix his hair. The game keeps talking about style and how it's important, and I'm really hoping I get to fix that, and his outfit. So far, I haven't found it to be difficult, but that isn't surprising because it really hasn't given much chances for side questing and leveling up yet. Dustin told me that happens in Chapter 4, so I guess that's when it'll get interesting. I'm going to be away for the weekend, so I expect to get behind. I might not email again closer to the end. Hopefully, I'll manage to catch up when I'm back. I'll be heading out to Canmore, which is where they filmed much of The Last of Us.
Oh,
they
cool.
filmed quite a bit here in Edmonton and in Calgary as well. Oh, Calgary? I don't know. Calgary. They shut down quite a few streets and had huge craters built into the roads. It was pretty cool being able to walk past the sets. Have either of you been watching the show? And if so, what do you think? I didn't love the game, but so far I'm loving the show. Anyways, don't forget to drink your water. After all, your body is a temple. Jamie. So, yes, my wife and I have been watching The Last of Us, much to my chagrin. I like the show a lot.
Yeah.
The show's quality. It really is. And that's the thing is, like, I never said that The Last of Us story was bad. The gameplay is garbage in that game. It's bad. It's bad. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anybody says.
Man.
Sneaking around and killing people, killing one or two guys and then getting spotted and getting into a very bad firefight is not fun. It's not.
Yeah, it's not fun if that's the way it plays out every time, but I like that scramble of like, can you do this stealthily? If not, all right, well, you can still have your shootout. Forced into the shootout.
The shootouts suck. I don't know. But like I said, the story I thought was great in The Last of Us. I have never played The Last of Us Part 2. No idea about it. But the story in the show has taken a couple of different turns.
I really like the intro where they're sitting around of the first episode, where they're sitting around and kind of debating what could be worse for humanity.
Yeah. I like how they're going back to the past a little bit, which was not explored at all in the game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we're watching it as well and really liking it. It's actually only the second show we've ever watched on a weekly cadence where we're waiting for new episodes to come out.
Yeah.
There's this and From. I don't know if you know that show.
Never heard of it.
I think it's by the guys that made Lost. And these people end up trapped in a village, and every time they try to drive away, they end up coming right back to that village. The road that leads away ends up leading back, and they can't leave, and creatures people come out at night, and so you have to be inside at night. So I don't know, it's just mystery after mystery. Epics.
Gotcha.
It's an interesting show so far. 1 season in, 2nd season coming. But that was the only show where every week we're we have to watch the new episode. Until we've gotten to The Last of Us, so it's quite enjoyable.
There you go. But thank you for those emails. If you would like to send an email, it's drew@ztgd.com. If anybody else out there is playing along with us or has played Yakuza Like a Dragon before, please chime in. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Or tips and tricks, because I hear this game gets kind of difficult. So we'll see. You can also follow us on Twitter. I am at DMLFury. Matt is at REMGS. And the podcast itself is at ZTGD Phoenix Down. But that's going to be it for us. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate it. And until next time, I am Drew.
And I'm Matt.
And we are out of here. We'll be back next week with the continuation of Yakuza Like a Dragon.